Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Cool Table. We're in the cut with two friends of the show, 80 Empire. Excited to have you guys here. Every time I get to interview you guys or even talk to you guys, it's a pleasure because it don't feel like an interview. I'm just kicking it with my boys.
Your family, man. You're a cousin. You're a little cousin, exactly. Man. So it's like we're getting together with a cousin.
Exactly. It's a pleasure talking to you as well, man.
I'm excited about the project because by the time this is out, everyone will, of course, got to hear it. Legacy is the name of the album. I want to start from the beginning because that's not no small name. That's not no light work. You know, putting a name like that in the album obviously means something big. So talk about those conversations you were having that made you want to do an album called Legacy and then, you know, put this whole thing together.
Yeah, I think, you know, like one day I was in Toronto and Luke, because we used to live in Toronto. We moved to Niagara on the Lake 6 years ago, but I was in Toronto and Luke sent me this record and I think he called it Legacy. And then I heard the beat, fell in love with it immediately. And I sent him a WhatsApp note, and I'm like, we are on borrowed time, live forever, through our rhymes, we do this for our legacy, for our children in the memories. And it just like, I think that song was the jump off, you know? And then also, like, we've been doing this a long time, but we've never put out a full-fledged hip-hop album. So we felt like we started from hip-hop, we have to put out a hip-hop album, and boom. And then it cavalcaded from there.
Yeah, I feel like the beginning of the album is so strong because it kind of lets everyone know like what they're in for. Yeah. And I like that's kind of the song that you started with. Conway has a line in the first song where he says, "All I've been through, can't find a nigga blessed as me." And I love that line because just the way that he says that lets you know the kind of we're just in a grateful space. This whole thing is about being grateful. And you know, a lot of people have said lines like that and it will end with, "I've been through a lot. Things are rough. Don't talk to me. I'm Screwface." But he used all his pain, whatever he went through, to say, "No one's as blessed as me." Talk about, you know, putting that song together with, you know, Conway and Ballistic and the kind of the tone that sets for the whole project.
Luke, I'll let you jump on that one.
Yeah, like we last year, was it last year already? Yeah, last May, we hooked up with Ballistic for a video shoot. And there was another guy there named Tony De Niro. Shout out to Tony. He's part of the Black Soprano family.
He's the general manager of the
general manager of Soprano family, and he's really connected with the Buffalo Bills and things like that. And we met him.
And an Italian guy too. So there was that Italian connection.
That connection.
Italian. Yeah. He's involved in hip hop. We're involved in hip hop. So there was a mutual respect right off the jump.
Yeah. And we're talking about stuff, and he was like, "Man, like, you guys, I love your shit, man." He goes, let me send some shit over to Conway and to Benny. And you know, right at that point, I mean, those guys have been around for a minute, but they were just starting to bubble, like where the masses were hearing them, not just, you know, guys like us three that if you know hip hop, you've known Griselda and them from time. Like but more people started to, because Eminem had just signed two of them. Rock Nation was just about to sign them. So there was all that shit bubbling back last year, and so we sent them. We started doing this Legacy record, and we put it on our Insta stories. You know, when my brother and I are acting a fool in the studio and shit. And Tony was like, "Yo, send me that Legacy record, man. I think Conway would eat that up." And that was it. He heard the record. Literally, he heard that we finished it that night, sent it. The next night, we had Conway's verse. It was like,
jeez.
It was just like that. And then Benny couldn't make the record. We originally were going to have him on the record, but because he just got really busy and doing all this other shit. But then he jumped on a record for the Ballistic project. So we had him, you know, he jumped on one of those.
Welcome to the 716.
Welcome to 716. Yeah, with a guy named Elo who passed away. So they wanted to kind of fulfill that no pun intended legacy of putting that song out, because this guy from Buffalo, Elo, really wanted to showcase, you know, Buffalo artists, and he had passed away, and they couldn't finish the song. So Adrian and I helped, you know, put that song together and put it out. So it was a cool, you know, cool thing to do. And they said, when, you know, it's cool getting a verse from a guy like Conway where he's talking personal. You know, you work with people and sometimes you hear a verse and you're going, oh, it's cool, you know, like, but it's nice when you get a verse and they feed off of what Adrian, not so much the beat. You put a hardcore
It's nice
beat
when they're inspired
by what you're saying,
by the narrative that we've started, you know. And it's almost like we look at music, like when we're making a song, and especially with this project, it's a lot like track and field, you know, because we're the guys making the track first, and I'm singing the chorus. I mean, a lot of the records on the album, I'm even rapping on some of the records, but it's almost like track and field. And I've got the baton first. And so the email is like the baton. It's that virtual baton. You send the baton through the internet. Boom. Conway heard it. He passed the baton. And so even, you know, he fed off what we gave him, which is a beautiful thing. And that's what's nice. We want people to feel ownership. Even though it's our album, we want them to feel ownership with the music we sent them. And not that like they're just giving us a stock verse that they have in their hard drive. We know that every cat, whether we have a real personal connection with them and have hung out with them before the pandemic, or whether we've just, you know, grown an internet relationship with someone, everybody really came correct on this project and really tailor-made their verse to what we sent them, which is a legacy, and that's a legacy within a legacy right there.
No, that's rare. I was about to really ask you guys that, because that almost never happens. Even on albums that aren't like as compilation album as this, like you may have an album with just one artist and two of the verses on the album is like, okay, this person's not even paying attention here. You know, they're not, like, basically every verse on this album, they're feeding into what you guys are building. And I feel like, you know, the theme of this album is way stronger, you know, than most, because everyone's bought in. There's not any kind of loose verse on here where it's like no one's paying attention. This is not how we're doing this. So I think that's a really strong part of this project. My favorite verse, and it's obviously hard to choose, but it's probably BG Knockout on Dedicated. I like that verse a lot. Talk about, you know, getting together with him for that.
You know what, BG, man, it's crazy how like BG was so, like I Instagram, like it was like, BG, man, send him a DM, say, bro.
And sorry, man, that's one of my favorites too, man. And that's my daughters who are 12 and 14. That's probably their favorite record too. Like they know BG's verse from top to bottom, which is crazy.
Yeah. They just can't re-rap it in school, you know. They just, about the snatches and the No, but with BG, I was like, you know, just commenting on posts and things like that. And I hit him up and said, yo, man, I'm, you know, big fan. Real Compton City G's, or that's the politically correct version. The real mother, what is it? The real mother, whatever, Compton. And I said, man, like, you're like West Coast, you know, legend, man. Be honored to have you bless a verse on this legacy project. And he goes, I'm down, like, send me something. I sent him one track and that was Dedicated. He goes, and then it's so funny because 2 weeks later, I said, hey, brother, just, you know, touch and base, see if you happen to hear the song. And he was like, what, you didn't get the verse? I said, I didn't get anything. He goes, oh, shit. So he had already rapped it. Like within 24 hours, it was done. Wow. I just didn't get it. So I went, yo, I didn't get it. He goes, yo, check your spam. I said, I checked my spam. I didn't get it. He goes, oh, shit. So he resent it. I got it. And but he had already done it like 2 weeks prior. He goes, yo, I thought you weren't feeling because you didn't get back to me. I'm like, yo, why is this guy, yo? I'm like, no, man, you're BG. Nah, I love it. Like, I never got the verse. So he's like, okay, dope. And then we wanted to shoot a video for that too. And it just funny enough, quick story. Crazy Bone was supposed to jump on a third verse for that track, but COVID just, you know, COVID. I mean, it just, so we were gonna fly to the Cali, do a video for it. I told Crazy, would you be down to a video? He goes, I'm in. And it just, It didn't happen.
We have Crazy Bone on another project.
On another
coming up in
track.
2021,
On another, secret track, which we'll tell you. Yeah, off air we'll tell you. Angel, we'll keep that one for the next interview. So
one of my favorite interludes, and when I listen to the album, I am by far the worst interlude on this album. So I appreciate you guys putting up with me, having me on there.
Not at all, man.
My favorite is Family Love interlude. That one I like a lot, and I thought that was important, of course, because when we talk about legacy, sometimes for people who don't have children, someone like myself, or aren't close with their family, when they talk about legacy, it has to kind of step outside those family, ties. But to me, legacy always is how you're going to affect people who are closest to you. Again, your parents, your spouse, your kids. So talk about how important it was to kind of have them, be a part of the project.
I think it was, because we're extremely loyal and dedicated to our families, as they are to us. So we felt we couldn't put an album together without connecting our family in some way, and especially our children, because, we're with them all the time. We help them with their homework. We're very close with our kids. And so it was extremely important to have them involved in some form of fashion. And you know what it is? It is probably, I know it's mine anyway. It's one of my favorites. Like this morning, just, doing some errands around the house, I'm listening to the album, and I'm looking at my kids, and they're smiling back, and I'm like, girls, this truly is my favorite. You know what I mean? My favorite. And just because we can hear all their voices, obviously people don't know our children, but I can hear my niece Vanessa's voice. I can hear the raspiness of my Julia, the high note of my oldest daughter, Simone. And then obviously, the only son.
My son kicks it off,
No, that's big time. I like, when I heard that, like, I was just like, this had to be on here. Like, there's no way this project. Yeah. Like, if you had sent me the project and I hadn't heard your kids on there, I would have asked that as well. I would have been like, where are they happen? So I felt like it was perfect to kind of have them on there. Another song I liked a lot, Asking Why. That hook, I think, is pretty powerful. Talk about, I guess, what was on your mind, putting that hook together. And then that's all, like, there's a lot of beats on this album that I'm just like, these are crazy. Like, and because, like, there's a lot of these songs that have multiple lyricists or, multiple vocals on this, you're focusing more on that than the beat itself. But there's a lot of beats on here that I'm like, I can imagine the reaction from every single different artist you sent this to when they got this. But tell me about putting together Asking Why.
Yeah, I think Luke had the beat, and it just, with that string in the beginning, it just had a very conscious feel to it, so I just started like, what the hell is going on with it? I don't know, it just popped in my head. And I think also, like, I think I had Marvin Gaye in my head too. Like, what's going on? Like, if Marvin Gaye had to do a hip hop, and I don't want to compare us to an icon like Marvin Gaye, but I think, like, that was the influence. I think that's where I drew from it. Yeah. And then, lyrically, like, when I started, let's be honest, motherfuckers, pretend and brag to the neighbors that they got black friends, because it is true. We live in a world where people are like, I'm not racist, but God damn it, if their daughter brings home a black boyfriend, oh, no, that's when the true colors, people's true personality comes out. And the way we were raised, both our parents are Italian immigrants, but our parents never, I mean, first of all, and we've probably said this before to you, like, our wives are not Italian. My wife's half Trinidadian, half German. My brother's wife is Chinese, Cambodian, Vietnamese. Our family's the United Nations. And so when we got married, our parents never said, why are you marrying an Italian girls? We grew up going to Caravana. We grew up hanging out in Eglinton, West Allen Road there, where Monica's, that whole strip's a very Caribbean thing. So it's just, for us, there are a lot of people, and especially because we've all been locked up in cages for a year now with this pandemic, you really see people's true colors. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, people will say they're not racist, but yes, they really are. Because,
well, I look at it like again, 2020 has taken the blindfold, or the you know, the carpet away, or whatever you call it, from those closet, you know, racists and these types of I don't want to use the word cancer, but that's what these types of people are. They are a virus. They're worse than COVID, you know, because you can't treat somebody's racism. If they're racist, they're racist. You hate to say it. You know, maybe if when you're younger, you can educate children of why, but once you're old, in our demographic of age, we're young, obviously older
hard
than
to teach an old dog new tricks.
Right. So when, you know, a lot of people I saw when, you know, like George Floyd, more people, you know, started, you know, writing shit on social media about the protests, but were very quiet when he was brutally killed, you know? And I said, okay, so you're quiet about that, but you have a problem with the riots. Well, then that's showing me who you really are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like Adrian said, you know, just because you have a coworker who's Black or Asian or you know, whatever, doesn't, and your neighbor is, and you're, hey, how are you? You know, doesn't mean that you understand or can understand. Like, you know, our dad said this to us. He goes, man, if I was younger and I was living in the States, I'd be marching too right now. Because this is 400 years of this shit. This is not like, you know, when these people have the audacity to talk about the mask and say that they're it's my God, you know, their
civil rights are being taken away.
Civil rights are being taken away. I'm going, are you fucking for real? Like, are you really saying this? Is this shit coming out? So Adrian as a lyricist, you know, the music that I physically do, it just compliments him, but he's making people uncomfortable with some of the words that he's saying as a white person. You know, yeah, we're Italian, but we're white. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he's making it uncomfortable. And that's what we want. We want people to go, really, like when we put out the song To Kill a Black Man, we wanted to create that uncomfortableness for people, because if you're feeling uncomfortable by the song, then you got to check yourself about your own.
But also,
shit, you know?
and a lot of, you know, I was watching this video on race, and there was this older white man. He looked maybe like in his 60s. And he said, well, you know, it's a double strike against me. I'm white. And he goes, I'm white, I'm male and I'm white. And I carry that burden. And I wish, when I saw that, I'm like, you carry that burden.
Crazy.
Dude. You know, like, look, Lucas and I, we both live in different households, but we look the same. We've got black hoodies on, black hats. But if I walk down the street, I might get a look or two, but I'm never going to get accosted by the cops.
Never, yeah.
That's just the sheer reality. Where, unfortunately, Adriel, you might be wearing the same shit Luke and I are, but it'll be a different set of rules for you. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that, you know? And that's why I think we wrote the song. And then we had our boy Angel, shout out to A-Dash. He's from the Bronx. He lives in PA. You know, we know that he's very lyrical, and we, you know, we really wanted to curate this and A&R it like record labels used to do in the past, like, you know, and really wanted to put the right chess piece, like not to, you know, not to compare anybody to a chess piece, but if we look at the album Legacy as a chessboard, we wanted to make sure we put the right chess pieces to the right song. Mm-hmm. You know, like Love and Respect to Rax, who's on Going Down. We wouldn't have put her on this song, not because she's not socially conscious, but because a lot of her songs are fun and about, you know, like getting lit. So that's our one kind of song on the album Going Down. That's a little bit more like, do you know what I mean? It's a little different, or like Forever Mood. So it's just like we picked the right chess pieces to go with the right sounds and you know, aesthetically and the whole vibe of the album.
Now, you guys did a good job of that. And like all the songs where I hear you rapping, I'm just like, oh, he's rapping. Like I get a little bit of an excitement to hear that. But you had a line on Asking Why where you said, you know, they mentioned that them having white neighbors. And the thing that I've like been like talking about a lot of people and thinking about is like the nuance of racism, because we think of racism as like something either overtly violent or verbally abusive. And like there is that nuanced kind of middle ground where you said this black guy could be your friend, but if you fall in love with him, that's a problem. Yeah. And it's like, you know, I think that middle ground is kind of what you illustrate a lot on this song, and that's the part that makes people think, because you know, I interviewed someone a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about their own visions of racism, and it's like I might go somewhere and not even think that there's no black people here. That's not something I even think about. It's just all white people is what's normal to me.
Sure.
So I like that you guys had that on there and kind of, you know, had those nuances and were able to show that. Get Lost. Now, Lucas, this is for you. Get Lost is, I'm in a tough spot. I can't really choose my favorite beat, and I really want to choose one, but I really can't. But Get Lost is one that I didn't even make to the end of the song before I started it over again. Tell me about putting that one together.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's how I feel like in a moment. Like I love doing is especially for this project is taking live drums and then adding it in the digital world. So, you know, you add the 808s and the kind of the snares that your people are accustomed to hearing, and then adding in that element of organic sounding drum. You know, it's just like the little ghost notes, like that song, like the it's not it's right. It's not that drill or trap where it's everything is completely perfect and there's no, and it calls for it in that type of hip hop, like the trap. It calls for everything to be absolutely perfect. That shit is more if a drummer was like you hear all the little ghost notes in there. And then I took the track. Sometimes what I do is I'll play something, and this is an idea that Adrian's always said to me to do, where I'll play it like a lick or a piano part, and then I resample it and trigger it. So it sounds like a sample, but it's actually what I played already. And then I trigger it as a sample. And then if you lower some like the frequency and the resonance, it muffles it a bit. So that track sounds like it's an old record, but it's all me playing everything. So it sounds like I sampled it, but it's not, right?
Nah, listen, I appreciate the live drums. I think like from being a drummer myself, like that live instrumentation is something that's missing because like to hear an album where there's no live music on it, like they're like that's the point. There are some of our favorite albums where there's not a live instrument on the entire album, and think of how wild that is. When you're talking about having Marvin Gaye in your head when you're thinking of that chorus, it's like there was a time when it was the other way around, and you had to sprinkle in the digital instruments and even like those programmed hi-hats. You know, that's something that's like the common now. So like this, getting those live instruments is rare.
You know what? New producers don't know the hardships of producers back in the day. Like I used to literally cut and paste and physically put hi-hat notes in just to create a like now you just go and it's done. Like programs where they put the chords in, like you know, and I'm like,
it's like strips of a hi-hat, strips of this.
Yeah, no, I used to sit there and chop and paste, you know, for Adrian's voice to go like, you know, like if it was the effect of a, now you just hit the note and it's like you could do all that shit, you know. So I mean, technology has come a long way, but I think like why I love adding that organic feel is because there's a soul to it. Like sometimes music, not just hip hop, from rock to rap to R&B to, when it's overly produced and overly digitized, you lose the essence of it. Like, you know, like when you hear like I'll use Michael Jackson. Like when you heard him, Billie Jean, his second verse, and Michael Jackson was like flawless, but he's a little flat on one note, the high note, like the second, because that shit was really high, but it was dope. And you hear it and you don't go, oh, he's flat. But in today's world, they would have auto-tuned or melodined him
and fixed it.
But it's that shit that made it so raw and good, because you're like, no, he did that naturally, man. He probably took 100 takes on his own merit because he was a perfectionist, but that shit was real. And I think I think we're going back to that. I think people want to hear substance again. I think
guys like Anderson .Paak and
the Anderson .Paaks of the world, you know,
some feeling in the music.
Yeah, like people want to hear that again, man. You want to feel that. Like if times are shit, yeah, you wanna have those turn up tracks to get your mind, even for those 4 minutes or 2-3 minutes, to get away from the, the bullshit of the world. But you want to hear that somebody that you look up to as an artist has something important to say too.
Yeah.
Not just talking bullshit where you're going, what you're putting out on social media is kind of like, you've turned me off. Like, you see some of these, you're going, what, why? Like, nah, like, come on right now. Like, this shit's going on. There's a time to be stupid. And then there's a time to be like, okay, fuck, man, this shit's going on. Like,
there's a time to have a backbone and stand up.
Yeah. And I think, and you know what? I got to shout out the younger generation, because I really do feel that there is I like to think that there is a blanket of change where the younger generation are not standing for this shit anymore. Like, they're like, no. We it's like, nah, this shit has to change. Like, it's not cool anymore to be an asshole. It never was.
But now it's really not cool.
Now it's really not cool.
And,
right?
and that newer artist, because we talked about it on the podcast a couple weeks ago with Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi's always someone who has something to say.
Yeah.
And he's not going to waste lines and just not mention anything. Whether it's his pain or helping you with your pain, he got something to say. I think having something to say is what's really gone now, because a lot of like, I tell my little brother this, he's 16, so he's really kind of in that age where he's listening to a lot of that stuff. I said, anyone who has nothing to say, I don't have a lot of time for them. You could really be as talented as you want, but if you have nothing to say, it's hard for me to really listen to a full album of what you have. On Costa Nostra, I like the skit at the beginning. You guys said, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. Tell me why that was a good fit at the beginning of that song.
I think
because we hate a lot of people.
Exactly. Let me this thing came up on the screen. Yeah, no, I think because, again, we do have that Italian, and obviously there's stereotypes that go along with every culture. Mafia being a stereotype going along with Italians. Although that, that is a stereotype, Mafia is a part of some Italian culture. It's a part of Italian street culture. So we wanted to add that aspect because, probably me more so than Luke. Luke is more the digital guy with the Star Wars and all of that. I love the Mafia movies and all of that, and I'm enamored with the street movies and the Mafia movies. So we wanted to have that, and having that skit in the beginning, we just wanted it to have that real Goodfellas feel to it. And I think it resonated with a lot of people because, we had friends of ours that have been in The Sopranos like it. A guy, Premium Pete, used to have a show with Combat Jack and stuff, like he dug the record and stuff. So a lot of Italian cats in the States who are involved in like gangster movies or, from that street life really like said like, yo, fellas, like this is official, because it's very easy to do like a Mafia song, go, yeah, shoot 'em up in front of the bakery, stuff it like pastry, shoot 'em up, bang, bang, forget about it. But we did it in a very narrative type of way. And I think we did it even like having like the Bobby Kennedy footage in the bridge, La Cosa Nostra, indicted with Bobby Kennedy. Like we really wanted to make it like very documentary style.
Yeah. That's what I thought of. I'm like, it is part of the culture, and it's like that's history at the same time. I think like everyone glamorizes it because they think about the movies and the TV. It's like, this really happened. Like this is real history. So it's like, I had to put that in there.
And really quick, like the history of the Mafia. Sicily is such a diverse place. The island of, we're from southern Italy. My dad's not too far from Sicily, but my dad comes from a province called Puglia. The city is Bari, and we have a lot of Barese rappers. Like all the rappers who are Italian are from my dad's hometown. 2 years ago, I hung out with all these fellas. We got records with them. So shout out to Bari and where my dad's from. My mom's from close to Rome, but in Sicily, because it's an island, it's close to Greece, it's close to Africa, it's close to the Middle East. It was always invaded by so many over the years, invaded by the Spanish. Like Italy, if we look at like, even like Canada, like Canada's a little over, it's indigenous people lived here first. But if you look at like colonialism and Confederacy and all that bullshit, it's a 200-year-old country, even though it's older than that. Same with Italy. Italy only, became the country of Italy like 200 years ago or 200 some odd years ago. So Sicily was constantly invaded. And again, like with a lot of organized crime, at first it starts off as a Robin Hood type of thing. It's just like, we're being oppressed. You're getting all of these other people who are invading us, telling us that they're our government. So that's how really the mafia was birthed. These guys who were, I forget the guy's name, but they were bootlegging food because the government was like, no, you can only buy the food off of us. And so that's how the mafia, and then obviously coming to the United States, and, you know, I don't condone bombing people. The mafia has become, you know, it's become folklore. In a way, the mafia is a lot like the Wild West. You know, the mafia of yesteryear is not the mafia of today. The mafia now has morphed into like credit card scams and pornography and shit like that. But before, it really was like the Robin Hood type of vibe. And then these Italian immigrants coming to Ellis Island, and Americans and even Canadians saying, hey, we don't like the way your name sounds. Look at these goddamn wops walking around the street with your slicked hair. You know, because I mean, let's be honest, the British, the Scottish, the Irish, they were very, very racist to any new immigrants that came, whether you were Italian, whether you were black. I mean, in Niagara-on-the-Lake where we live, people who grew up here for like, their parents have been here like 80, 90 years. They said back in the 30s, there used to be signs in town here, no dogs allowed and no wops allowed, or no Italians.
Wow.
Luke, didn't someone tell you that?
Yeah. A friend of mine told me that. But I also think too, like if you break it down even simpler with the song, like going back to the song itself, my brother and I, it's part of being, I think, us, it's part of an Italian thing too, but us as people, like we'll give you our arm. I'll give you the shirt on my back if I meet you, your family. That's how we treat it. But if you break that code, if you break that respect, loyalty, integrity, to then it's like you're done. Like for me, you're done, because
we don't like Judas's and Pontius Pilates.
No, I don't like people like that. I don't like people who promise, who break promises. Because I never it's one thing I go on, and that's a big thing for me out of music, and it's one is being humble, you know. If you think you're better than everybody else, there's the door. I don't give a shit how talented you are. I don't need to waste my time. You know, two, if you're said you're going to do something, do it. If you're going to work on shit, hustle your shit. Don't hustle for, 2 months and wonder why you're not big and famous yet. And then go back to be, you know what I'm saying? So that's where it's kind of like, funny enough, where that Cosa Nostra almost became the officially the unofficial first song of Legacy, because it was kind of like come out with that, like either you show the respect, or my sister-in-law always laughs at me. I say like, or Pontius Pilate, like I wash my hands of you. Like we good, but if that's how you're gonna be after everything, then
there's a story that I heard that I think fits kind of what we're all saying. It's like, it talks about that level of respect and family. It's like, I'm on top of the roof and you can take the stairs up to meet me and I'll rock with you once you get there. But once you cross me, there's only one way off this roof. True. And that's really how it is. Like, we could be up here and rule the city and do that all together, but once you cross me, you can't walk back down those stairs. So I totally get that. This is going to be the last question before we get out of here. And we do a segment called Wednesday Wisdom on the show every single week. New motivational quote coming to us from our boy, Brandon Gibbs. Now, you guys have been dropping gems for me since I've met you, so I know you guys will kill this one. Anything that you kind of keep in mind, or you tell your kids or your family to kind of keep them positive and motivated when times are going a little rough?
For me, through this whole, my kids are 10 and 7, so they're younger than Adrian's, and we've talked about the pandemic, we talk about systemic racism, I've talked about Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and all this type of stuff, and I think what I think people to do is one is tomorrow's not promised, so live your life to the fullest, but respect and love somebody on their character, respect, not on if you choose to live your life, whether you whatever you believe, whatever you choose, whoever you want to marry, however you feel you are as a person, whether it's you love and respect everybody equally. And that's all I care with my kids. I said, all I care about is that you work hard and you're honest and you respect people for, for who they are and what they do, not for what they believe. That stuff is, whether I'm Catholic, look, my wife's Buddhist, I'm Catholic. Some days the kids pray to Jesus, and then the next minute we're lighting incense for her father, my father-in-law who passed away, and the different, that shit means to me, you know what I mean? We've seen in the world, like we could actually learn a lot from kids through this pandemic. We told them to wear masks at school, they wore them. Most percentage of these kids didn't bitch and complain. It's the old people that are causing all the shit and the problems.
Absolutely.
It's the adults,
And I think in our mother, we call my mom Gangster P and our dad Jabu. So shout out to Gangster P and Jabu. But Gangster P, my mom always goes this, really like live in the moment, because we know with what's going on, especially in the world, tomorrow's not guaranteed. Don't stress over your mortgage. Don't stress over this or that, or trying to chase the Joneses. Live today, live responsibly, but have fun while you're being responsible. And I really tried to pass that on to my children, and that's that. Like, just, live responsibly, but live in the moment. Don't think too much. Don't think 20 days from now or 2 years from now, because who knows? We don't even know what's going to happen 2 days from now. So live in the moment, hour by hour, minute by minute, have fun, but be a good person and be responsible while you're doing it, man.
Man, I love y'all for coming on the show. This has honestly been a pleasure. The album's out now. The album's out right now. If you're listening to this, you're watching this, 80 Empire Legacy album is out right now. I'm on there, Angel Smiley Interlude. That's the one song you can skip. Everything else on there, listen all the way through.
No, man.
No. Listen, I love it, man. And I love, like when we heard your voice, because you've got a real baritone voice, man. You're the Barry White of radio, Barry White, obviously, is a singer, but you've got that baritone. So we're just like, you've got that very like a classical sound to your voice. So we're like, we had to come correct, man. And then, adding that whole thing about for the glory of the empire and that, and then the wolves, we have wolves sounding off, because Romulus and Remus, the two twin brothers that were like the myth of ancient Rome, that they were going to be, they were thrown by the river to be killed. The she-wolf got them, then a shepherd took the man, but a wolf took care of them. So we have those wolves because
symbolism.
It's a symbol of Rome, right? So there's, again, that underlying mythology throughout all of this. But no, man, you killed that, man.
You killed that shit.
Thank you. If you're listening to the podcast for the first time, make sure you're subscribed on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave us a rating and a review, 5 stars, not a single star less. On YouTube, make sure you're subscribed as well. That's a Cool Table Live on YouTube. We got new episodes coming for you guys every single week. And of course, the radio show, CJRU, 12:80 a.m. in Toronto, every Wednesday at 11. But until next time, know yourself, know your worth.